Hi everyone. Thanks for joining us this morning. My name's Nathan Keller. I'm the founder and director of True Altitude, VC fund based in London, focused on tech and logistics investments. We're here today to do the rapid fire debate. The topic we're talking about is cross-border, making international shipping frictionless. I'm joined today by Thijs Bol, Managing Director of Spring Europe and PostNL, and Ted Hedich from Ideal Shopping. Gentlemen.
How you doing?
Hi. Perhaps just give an overview of who you are, where you're from, and...
Yeah. Good morning. Good morning. Not yet?
Good morning.
There we go.
There we go.
Good morning, Thijs. I'm from the Netherlands, 44 years old. Working for PostNL already 20 years, and with Spring the last 5 or 6 years. Here today to talk with you, actually also, this is a debate, so I'm also really interested in your thoughts about, okay, we're all in e-commerce, we're all in cross-border, but cross-border can be very promising, but also can be sometimes causes friction and complexity. Let's talk about that complexity and how to deal with that and to be as successful as possible in cross-border. That's the conversation I would love to have with you this morning, and with my colleague and participator.
How's it going? I'm Ted Hedich. I have a background in working in cross-border marketplaces. I was the executive director for Frugo, which is a cross-border marketplace, and currently chief sales officer for Ideal Shopping Direct. Recently, within the last couple of months, actually stepped down to be a consultant for Ideal, and I've started my own business, my own cross-border business as well. So great
Excellent.
to be here.
Excellent.
Two-minute warning, right?
Yeah, no, that's it. So just a bit of background why this talk today is special to me. So I started my e-commerce and logistics life on the very first day that Spring existed. So that's 20-something years ago. So I walked into e-commerce and logistics and have not left since. So this is a very good one. And by chance, we've got a bit of history as well, having just met again now. So what we're talking about today is obviously cross-border. Now, having been in cross-border for many years, as Thijs said, people can be intimidated by cross-border shipping, but the reality is it's about preparation and doing the right things up front. And if you do that, it's actually very successful, and businesses are doing very well at it. So I touched upon, obviously, Spring in my intro, but can you just tell us a bit more about Spring and sort of what Spring does?
Yeah, sure. Well, Spring is 100% part of the PostNL group, where PostNL and its brand, but also its networks are operating in Benelux. And actually Spring is doing cross-border deliveries from anywhere to everywhere, with presence in the main countries in Europe, Asia and Americas. So what we provide is indeed cross-border solutions in a broker model. So we don't operate our own network. We actually find solutions that our customers are looking for. So we connect networks via our platform, and then also the physical distribution. So we create end-to-end solutions, and I think that's also partly the answer to when things pop up in the market, new regulations, VAT changes, Brexit, COVID supply chain pressure, how to quickly adapt to that to be able to still provide cross-border solutions. That's the kind of area where we are operating in and try to distinguish ourselves from others. Excellent.
And Ted, just in regards to Ideal, obviously your background, as you said, with Frugo, we're aware, obviously, with the marketplaces have gone absolutely gangbusters in the last couple of years.
Yeah, it's been really wild, right?
Yeah, it has. So for companies like Ideal and Frugo previously, like how important is cross-border shipping, and sort of what do they do on the cross-border side?
Yeah, I think it's the one thing that you have to get right when you're approaching, going into international markets, whether it's nearshore or further afield. Getting that delivering right, and getting that message to your customer that you can actually serve them with the delivery expectations that they want, I think is really key. It's not easy. It's not easy to do, and I think a lot of companies, they go into it a bit naively. Maybe a bit different now due to Brexit. I think a lot of companies in the UK, for example, are pulling back.
Yeah.
And actually sticking more to the home market. and that's due to legislation, due to just the complexity of the market that we're working in now and living in now.
Yeah.
But I think getting that right is key. And if you want to be successful in cross-border, delivery is probably the most important thing, probably behind customer service.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. And obviously the last 18 months has been unique, I guess. Much like I'm sure when we were sitting there at the start of the pandemic, everyone was freaking out thinking, what's our business going to do? But cross-border and e-commerce in general went absolutely nuts for 18 months. So what impacts, certainly from Spring's side, did you see in terms of the pandemic volumes and how customers reacted to that?
Yeah, I think that the first thing that pops up in my mind is, especially in the overseas networks. So wherever we had to use air capacity, that was immediately very, very difficult. So I think the main challenge was to continue, let's say, to offer a solution. Everyone understood, and also all our customers understood that it was extremely complex. It took longer. That was not so much the issue, but indeed making sure that you used a very nice word, I think. And so not naive, but making sure that your global solutions are still working. And I think we have also seen competition, colleagues, etc., where actually simply it collapsed or it stopped or it was impossible to ship out anymore, etc. So the first weeks and months was really making sure that you can still deliver, maybe significantly longer, maybe twice or three times, but as long as that is clear and is visible. And you were saying on customer service, make sure that your customers are knowing what is happening and maybe can accept that it's queuing for a week to get in the belly of an airplane. That is fine as long as that is clear, transparent. You also have the data that can provide it, and then actually you can still work your way through that. I think that's also the lesson. We've also made big mistakes in the beginning, because I think everyone did. When you're not, considering that, keep the supply chain alive and manage the expectation for your customers. I think that was the key point of the very beginning.
And do you think, like, initially, I think because everyone was in lockdown, everyone was at home, obviously delivery became a bit easier, but also the expectations were lowered and people accepted delays. How do you think, like, pre-pandemic versus now, have the expectations gone back up, or have they actually got worse because people's expectations are that you'll deliver at the level that they were expecting?
With Ideal was really cool. I left Frugo in the end of 2019 and started with Ideal at the beginning of 2020. So it was going into it thinking, okay, this is going to be a great new experience, great new marketplace there. 3 months into it, the whole pandemic broke out. We did a major shift into the kind of product that we were actually selling. So whether it was like moving more towards food, dry goods, pastas, stuff like that, toilet paper, of course.
Yeah, plenty of toilet paper, I'm sure.
Sanitizers, hand sanitizers blew up. Yeah. And I for Ideal, it was really interesting because it's TV home shopping and a marketplace. Yeah. So we had a captive audience at home, and we saw increases of around 30 to 40%.
Wow.
Consistently across the whole year. Yeah. And we did have the double peak Christmas in spring.
Yeah.
And that was intense to see. And making sure that the stock levels, even coming from international locations, that they were maintained was really intense. And I think we had even one of our shipments was actually stuck in the Suez Canal when the ship got stuck too, when that was going on as well. But yeah, I think during that time period, we've discovered, so going back to your question, a lot of people discovered online shopping for the first time.
Yeah.
And I don't think they're going to go back. So I think that would be a constant and a new development that came out of the pandemic. So new customers that are used to this new normal.
Yeah, that's it. And
can I maybe add something to that? Because
definitely.
I'm still thinking about your question is, because I think it works a bit both ways. In terms of demand, I'm fully with you, and I think we've entered a different stage. That's clear. I think, on the other hand, it's also from a consumer perspective, especially with the more difficult cross-border deliveries. I think also consumers have realized maybe that how sometimes complex it is, right? So I think it's more on expectation than on pure only always has to be super fast next day or 3 days to US or whatever. So it is quite complex, long supply chain. And I think what also consumers have learned is, and I think the learning from ourselves and also our customers is, that is fine as long as it clear, predictable, the data around it is in order. I think that is the key thing. And in general, the data, I like the word naive you said that you used, also relating to Brexit. I think that's a big learning. There's big underestimation of how, again, complex. I don't want to use the word continuously, but how complex it can be. Although physically it's nothing, it's just shipping the same distance. But the value of data, having that correct for a smooth customs process. And if that's not in order and you're not prepared or a bit too naive, or you think, I can get away with that, you cannot get away with that anymore. So I think at our customers or the e-tailer shipping abroad, the awareness of having that the basics right, then indeed you have a global marketplace where you can sell. If you are a bit too or naive or not prepared enough, actually maybe you enter in a lot of difficulties. You get non-happy flows, undeliverables, unhappy customers. I think that is the key lesson, and I think a few things came together in like a bit of a perfect storm, because you had indeed a pandemic, you had Brexit and VAT changes in 18 months, which is an incredible change. But actually the essence is all the same. Yeah. So if you have this in order, actually it's a huge opportunity also for e-tailers to distinguish yourself and having this right, and then you can ship to everywhere. It does not matter. So in that sense also Brexit, also I think for European e-tailers helped them, because just out of a sudden it became a non-EU destination. If you have Brexit right, or let's say solutions to and from the UK right, then why not Japan, South Korea, US, Brazil? Because in essence it's the same. So that's also, I think, I see that processing process at our customers that are understanding that if you have these basics right, then you have really a huge opportunity.
Definitely. And look, from when I first was Spring, obviously a lot of it was handwritten customs notes and different things like that. Yeah. Now, obviously with the evolution, companies like Metapack, who's here, SendCloud, these sort of companies, we actually had one which we exited from to Mando. So these sort of businesses obviously working with carriers and with retailers now, providing that level of detail, increased amount of tracking, knowledge on where parcels are. Do you think that has helped retailers, or has it just put more pressure onto carriers?
I think it's helped coming from our point of view. I mean, in terms of customer service queries, having that information available is a game changer.
Yeah.
One of the biggest issues that I had with Frigo, for example, is that people wouldn't include tracking numbers with their product, and the number one question we always got is, "Where's my order?" That's the number one. It probably still is. It probably still is. Yeah. And if you can provide that number easily and give them an exact idea of what's going to happen, I mean, that's what people want to do. They want to know that, and they expect that now.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe to add is also, and I think that's still a learning experience also for e-tailers, what is the optimal. So there's quite a lot of data along the whole physical and data flow of that parcel, but what is the right level of information to push to your customers, right? Because I see sometimes some e-tailers that are, because we have sometimes for a single parcel, we have like 200 events. So for a global supply chain, it's quite normal to have 200 events. Of course, you're not going to display 200 events to your customer, and your customer, or our customer, is not going to display 200 to their consumer. They go entirely nuts. But to think about, okay, how often do you have to, for a global supply chain, say a parcel takes 7 days to travel to Japan. The level and the frequency of pushing out messages in order to have a smooth consumer experience, so that indeed they not start calling with exactly this question. Yeah. I think we haven't figured out exactly what is the right number. I see e-tailers that are pushing out sometimes 3 a day, which consumers get a little bit annoyed. And actually, if you then do 1 day nothing, they start complaining at day 3. Yeah. We see some, and they get exactly the same events from us as a carrier. I see some that do only one or 2. So I think understanding what the consumer now really wants when it's ordering cross-border, especially, and so within Europe, it's all relatively easy. It's 1 or 2 or 3 days max. You're there, especially when it's overseas. I think cracking the code of what the consumer now really wants to know, how frequent he wants to get updated, I think that's still also...
Definitely.
To be learned. Yeah.
There's companies like the US company Nava that do post-purchase experience and stuff like that, and sort of managing that retailer experience. I know they work with PostNL. So yeah, that's. I think the retailers want that customer. They want the customer to be contacting them. And I know when we were on the carrier side, so often, people be contacting you, and then there was a disjointed messaging. So it's interesting, that you say that. So yeah. And just changing the tone a little bit around returns. Obviously, Spring very strong in returns, and you've got global operations there. What are you seeing sort of from a returns? Like obviously the delivery out might go fine, and in the past returns were something didn't get delivered, but that's not the case now. Most retailers are sending things out. How are you experiencing sort of the returns process and how the experience is?
Yeah, I think it depends on category, but like fashion, for example, is notorious for 50% returns for most businesses.
Yeah.
We have seen a reduction by making the customer actually pay for the return.
Yeah.
And that's dramatically decreased. So not doing the like Zalando model or Amazon model where you provide free returns, and it allows people, especially who are culturally affine, to, let's say, buy 20 pairs of the same shoe, try them all on, and then keep one and return the rest. Like my wife, for example, is German. It's like crazy. But yeah, I think making them pay for that and kind of showing them, okay, you can't. This is not sustainable. We can't keep doing this. I think it has dramatically decreased it. And we saw it at Frugo and we saw it at Ideal too. So I think that's going to probably be the way of the future with pushing that cost on the customer now.
Definitely.
Yeah, what we try to do is, so apart from indeed making, let's say, the supply chain of the returns work, is. And so the challenges that you're describing. And so let an e-tailer think about what they want for customer experience and how the level of freedom that they want to provide to their consumer. So indeed, that's what we try to focus on, and make that smooth an out and inbound perspective for a consumer. Make that let's say a rounded experience, right? So that's what we really try to do. Our network for forward is our returns network. The carriers, most of the carriers we use for forward is returns. The IT environment that we use for forward parcels is for returns. And then within that, and that's an e-tailer decision, let's say we give options how you want your customer experience on return. So what is the physical technical solution? Indeed, label in the box, request in label, etc. Is it free of charge, or is it with a threshold? Is it with if you're a very loyal customer, it's free, but or €50 basket is for free. So play with those, but also here take the friction away, because between. And also not separate the processes for forward and returns, because we believe that a true consumer experience that provides the same kind of experience around I've ordered something, but there's something wrong, whether it's 20 pairs of shoes or just one, make that as frictionless and seamless as possible. That is the way we try to actually optimize that customer experience.
Definitely. And Ted, just in regards, I'll sort of go back to you. Frugo marketplace days. So one of the challenges that companies have now is a lot of third-party shipping. So, certainly on a marketplace, some retailers don't even see their stock anymore. It's coming from a third party.
Yeah, marketplace is so hot right now.
Straight out, yeah. So coming straight out. So during your time, what was the challenges, obviously from a cross-border part, for sort of retailers that don't even touch their own stock? They've got third parties fulfilling it from China. It's being dropped into a market, and you've still got to manage that experience.
Yeah, I think with those kind of players, you have to really be careful and do a lot of vetting and making sure that they are not going to damage your reputation, because it can go wrong, and when it goes wrong, it goes horribly wrong usually. And so making sure that those guys are providing tracking numbers, providing information on the delivery, smooth customer returns policies, and stuff like that. You have to work with players that you can trust. And I think going into it blindly and just accepting any seller to come on your marketplace, whether it's Ideal Shopping or whether it's using a Miracle-like style marketplace, you really have to be careful and make sure that they're vetted and you can trust the actual retailer you're working with.
Yeah, just around the room, is anyone currently doing that? Do you have stuff coming directly from China outwards to customers, not passing through warehouses? No? Yes? And how do you sort of vet those sellers, like in terms of managing the cross-border? Because certainly from a Spring point of view, you're putting things into packages and people are vouching for it. Do you currently sort of, how do you vet the sellers, per se?
We are the seller.
Oh, sorry, the Suppliers.
We have 5 fulfillment centers, but one is a small operation, family-run operation with a few people. But I can talk with the owner, and they send video when we onboard new products. They take picture or they send you a video, but they are more expensive than the others. So once the product starts scaling, then we move to more, say, industrial, big partner with cheaper price. But randomly we order ourselves one of the packs of the boxes to one of the selected addresses we have around the world, and then these people relay to us with video or photo of the actual. So we keep testing, because sometimes from China happen that when you start scaling, they take one button off, or they start saving. So you need to keep checking the products, and we do that without them knowing. And if we find problems, then either we change supplier or we talk to them. But now after 5 years, we have some fulfillment center and also producers that we can trust.
I think right now in the EU especially,
it was an organic growth. We got some problems. I'm not saying it was frictionless. It wasn't, but well, now it's okay. I think.
Excellent.
A lot of the information is now public on competitor sites, for example. So coming from like a sales point of view, if you're looking, I want to grow my marketplace, you can look at a lot of what the bigger players are doing and see exactly who they're working with. So you can actually use larger companies and see what they're doing now, even placing a test order on your competitor to see what's going on and to see if that product actually gets to you is a really good way to do it. And making sure that it is actually like the guys who you want to work with. So you're not just going in blind. So you're using social proof, essentially.
Yes. Yeah. Excellent. And just going back, obviously you touched on taste around obviously the Brexit. It was a lot all at once, wasn't it? Brexit, the Stop Act, VAT changes, pandemic, all happening at once. What sort of obviously it all got thrown on everyone very quickly. Sort of what conversations were customers coming to you? Like what were their challenges at that stage, and sort of what do you think has changed in 18 months? Like have people changed how they're doing things to sort of meet those challenges?
I think it's a bit different maybe the UK e-tailers, so outbound and inbound. So let's both perspectives. To be honest, I'm quite surprised if we talk about outbound UK, how many e-tailers and also extremely professional e-tailers were in somehow not so prepared. And so we've seen very, very big ones that, I don't know, underestimated, didn't understand the exact details. Everyone or a lot thought, okay, we have a deal, so why is there an issue? So here's my point what I make earlier about if some basics are not in order in your stock, in your data, also description of your products, the HS codes, etc., simply you cannot ship anymore. And I think that's what we've seen. And we've seen e-tailers and then pulling the plug after a couple of weeks because it was so messy and they couldn't ship out of there.
And you were saying anymore. Like people literally stopped completely.
And they closed just the European market, and we still see that. And we see, I think, e-tailers that have dropped out of UK 70-80% of their outbound, and so they will get back in the ring, but they have lost the momentum. Although it still amazes me, to be honest, if you have a 4-year debate on Brexit, but that really happened, and not just with one or two, and also very professional ones. It almost seems a bit that the other way around seemed a bit better prepared. I don't know, but the e-tailers that we have and are shipping to UK. Actually, UK is still my biggest destination as a shipper. Let's say so for our customers, it's a top destination. And I think what I said earlier, if you crack the code of now shipping to the UK, which from a supply chain perspective is very easy, there's no logistical hassle. But if you have that essence, then actually the rest is there to follow. So I think that is now. I think that is now sinking in, both from a mainland Europe to UK perspective and the other way around. It's interesting what will now happen, because of course, also if you have a solution, we have quite a good working solution to the UK. So e-tailers were happy because consumers in the UK could still order from their web shops. but it has become more complex. It has become also more costly, etc. So we do see e-tailers now looking for what is now the more sustainable model for destination UK, or the other way around. Of course, we see a lot of UK e-tailers also that are walking around over here. They're thinking, okay, we have our supply chain model has to change. Our warehousing model, are we shipping something from mainland Europe? So I think we see a lot of variation now, and I think there's not an end model yet. But indeed, the European e-tailers looking for maybe a warehouse in the UK to provide quicker solution to UK customers, and the other way around. I think that model is not yet stable, but I think you've seen that the well-prepared e-tailers, outbound and inbound, they have, let's say, survived and keep their flows alive, or actually also won market share. But okay, it's now almost a year later. You see everyone's reconsidering and making plans for opening DCs, whether it's in the UK or mainland Europe.
A few companies did that, didn't they? So they, like the prepared ones, might have set up an operation in Netherlands or Belgium. So they had their UK operation, and then they were just splitting stock from, coming from China, for example, into a European centre and a UK centre. But the other ones a bit more difficult.
I think in general, because this is now, of course, triggered by Brexit, and then indeed complexity arises, and so that forces you to think about it. But I think at least many of the conversations I had in the last days, and probably also here in the crowd, are also so not triggered by Brexit. I think a lot of considerations are about, okay, if you become bigger in cross-border, how, and normally, of course, you start from one DC in the country where you're from. We started to become successful. Of course, you started first to explore the European markets, very easy. And then thinking about, okay, but actually, if I want to come closer to my end consumer, want to meet the customer expectation, how do I think about where is my stock located? Do I keep it cross-border, make it local? I think those are the bigger questions that almost everyone, I think, has with significant cross-border volume.
Did anyone here set up an additional warehouse? So if you're a UK retailer or a European retailer into the UK, did anyone actually set up separate operations to be able to deal with Brexit? No? No? There we go. Very well prepared.
So, for one of my side projects, I actually set up UK returns locations and UK fulfillment as well. So I have a side for my side hustle essentially. Yeah. But yeah, that was a big thing, and also in the Netherlands. So like if having an EU location, the Netherlands is fantastic for that.
Yeah, definitely. Excellent. And so just changing tones, I don't think there'll be a talk this week that doesn't talk about sustainability and sort of the impact of, obviously it's a lot more topical now, and, companies are doing it. Postal has never been known as sustainable, because obviously the amount of paper moving, however, that's changed a lot. A lot's moved to digital, obviously a lot moving to parcels. What, from a Spring perspective, how much you sort of focus on sustainability, and even, with your transport, making sure you're efficient with transport around the world, etc.?
I think that's a really good question, and I think that's one of the new challenges that is coming. What we've done, step one, is actually set all the shipments that we're doing, because we're neutralize CO2 emission. Then you don't change anything about the true CO2 emission, but we truly believe, as PostNL and as Spring as well, as a daughter company, that sustainability is the future, and in the end we need to find a good solution for this and true reductions of CO2 emissions. We decided as a first step this year, whatever you ship with us, 1 parcel, 1,000, 10,000, everything is getting compensated by us, so it's a commitment from us. And then as a next step, together with our customers, we have to find, okay, how can we really reduce? Because by making that step, it's fine, you offset, but you don't reduce. And together we have to find ways to reduce this, either by optimizing the supply chains, so what we were just talking about. So maybe dividing your stock differently leads to shorter distances and less physical relocations. I think we are still early stage, and also saw some colleagues here at the fair talking about smarter packaging, smarter shipment. There's a lot to win over there. If I see physically our shipments in our warehouses, in our planes, etc., it can be reduced by 50% or something like that. And of course, then the next steps are about true green transport. But I see it a bit as in steps. So in terms of commitment, this is a super big topic. It's actually intrinsically, this is our position. That's also why we said we're just committed to that. We're going to compensate everything, just a commitment from our side. But a true challenge, but you can only do that with your partners and your customers, is really looking at reduction. And for some, that is really in smarter packaging. For some, it's co-redesigning their supply chain. So, okay, let's divide the stock, making sure that our vehicles don't have to travel 2,000 kilometers, but only 200. And then, of course, it's about next steps of, but still there are some codes to crack. I think long distance carrying electric vehicles. So in the Benelux, we can already do that because there we do last mile. You can just deliver emission free. So that will happen in the next years. That's a commitment PostNL has already made. And in a couple of years, they are going to realize that. For cross-border, it's more complex, but you can achieve that. But I see that in some steps. So the step to CO2 neutral flying, that's still complex, but you can make steps already. It's not that it has to stop you from doing something right now, and we have to do that. Otherwise, we ruin this whole industry, and we shouldn't. And I think there are lots of opportunities to make the industry much more sustainable and in the end really CO2 neutral.
Yeah. I think that was one of the positives, obviously, with the pandemic, because everything sort of stopped and everyone reset. I've seen certainly with the airlines and the transport companies that their focus now on sustainability has increased massively. They would never be talking about cutting emissions at that level, but they're focused. It's on their website. It's on everything they're doing now. So.
Yeah, maybe to add, because I also feel there's a bit of being active in the industry as an obligation also. So it's a bit like, okay, we are now in Europe or in the whole world talking about energy crisis and etc. You want to be ahead of that. So you see problems coming, you have to think about it right now, and you can already make steps instead of otherwise. We are in a beautiful industry. It's fast growing. It's for all of us. You're all in that business. I think we have a joint responsibility, and we can also concretely do something instead of just waiting for the moment that it's too late. And I think that's what you're now seeing a bit in the energy. We knew this was coming. So
definitely.
And for sustainability, the same. We know it's coming.
Yeah, and ideal. Sort of in terms of, Tace mentioned the packaging. Like some of the customers I used to have like a USB in a box this big, because it didn't matter. What's the focus? Obviously, you've got a lot of different products in that business. So
how do you working with a lot of different suppliers and sources like that too. So I think it's the small, like Tace mentioned, the small optimizational changes you can make within your warehouse, within the way that you operate. And working with local players more, working with international players who have local solutions and focusing on it too. You hear a lot of people just default to planting trees and stuff like that, but I think that can also be done. That can also be done right. You can work with organizations that are actually doing it in the destinations that you're, let's say, cross-border shipping to, so that you actually help the countries that you're actually delivering products to, the people who are actually ordering the products, and not just in-house and what looks good.
What you see around,
what looks
greenwashing, basically.
Greenwashing.
Yeah. Excellent. And just looking, I'll put you both on the spot here, but a lot's changed in shipping. Last 20 years, a lot's changed. The next 5 years, where do you see, what's the next thing that retailers should be focusing on to improve their customer experience on cross-border shipping? Take a moment to think about that.
Good question.
I think it'll be technological developments, like integrating new technological developments to offer cross-border goods within local markets. So let's say like with TV is a really good example. So you're seeing a lot of smart technology coming out with TVs, shopping being integrated into your just everyday TV experience.
Yeah.
NBC Universal in the US doing this too, and really focusing on basically making everything shoppable. And I think we'll see a lot more of that, and those goods are going to be coming from cross-border destinations, from Chinese suppliers, whether it's from people in the EU, the US. And I think once everything becomes more shoppable within the next 5 years, we're just going to see it increase. We're going to see cross-border delivery increased worldwide.
Yeah.
That's my 5 year.
There you go. That's good 5 years. I'm sure everyone will be happy with that.
Maybe to add, I think if you think about the customer experience for cross-border shipping, it is not yet that smooth. So I think from a technological point of view, we can do. There's already so much available, but I think if you think about from an ordering consumer perspective, there's a lot that can be that you really feel that it's a smooth experience, that indeed your niche in terms of getting updated, easy returns, etc. That you can really also steer on that. Of course, in domestic and in city delivery, you see an explosion of options there. In a cross-border, I think there's still a lot to win. So I think that will be a big boost, and where consumers can really more drive the experience and the role of data of that. I think that's in cross-border shipping still immature. So a lot to go there. Yeah.
Definitely. So we're sort of coming up towards it. Just wanted to throw out to the audience, any questions, cross-border questions, stories, anecdotes, jokes, anything?
The only thing I didn't hear anything about is the one-stop shop. I mean, if that's any issue for any retailers. Our accounting department was happy with it. That's a lot of work, you have to do. All these,
I'm experiencing that right now, actually. Yeah. So I've set up a company in Ireland, for example, and we're looking to get VAT registered and have an IOSS number. And there's massive backlogs because I think everyone was not prepared to do it, even though they were informed well ahead of time. Everyone's just rushing for the gate. And there's a massive backlog. Same in, I have another subsidiary in the Netherlands that's running a bit more smoother, but you can tell country by country, not all of them were quite ready as they should have been, I think.
Yeah, I completely share. And I think it's becoming a bit of repetition, but I think you see here the same. So the solutions are there. So import one-stop shop works perfectly fine. I think you also see that the e-tailers or the platforms that have prepared themselves well for that actually have quite a smooth customer experience. But I have fully confirmed what you're saying. I think we've seen a lot of semi-well-developed solutions or e-tailers or platforms not well prepared, and they're now stuck, and actually they're ruining their own business models, which is a shame because the solutions are there, I think. Yeah.
Excellent. Any more questions? No problem. Well, I think we'll conclude there, guys. Really appreciate it. Love talking about it. I feel like it's a full 360 on my career now, so I'm going to retire now. So we're done. But thank you so much. And by all means, everyone stop past the spring stand in the middle of the show there and talk about cross-border. And obviously, I'm sure you'll greet everyone at the door. Excellent. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks a lot for joining.